Well, I'll conclude the Happy Bucks. I began it, so I'll end it. And I would like to also add my Happy Bucks for Wade being with us. Again, looking at the conference with Julie and Julia and Hank and Wade, I saw all of your students down front, and they certainly brought down the median age for that group of us there. It was a pleasure to see them. And like Lance, I feel like, maybe through osmosis, I felt like I began to know Wade better about 10 years ago or so. And, when Lance was district governor, or in the district governor line particularly. And although I sort of kind of knew about Rotary Youth Exchange, and, you would see the students at the district conferences. I remember one conference in particular, I think it was in Greenwood, where y'all had some type of, I don't know how you did it. You had like these flags in a pole or something, and the flag would stick out at the end and tell students where they were going to go to, at the end of the year. It was just, or the next year, it was just really exciting.
That was Lance's conference, actually. And we were able to do that because he had his conference in February, and they were just learning. We can't do that when we're this late because they have to know before April where they're going. Yes.
I just remember the looks on their faces when those flags came out, and the looks of other students' faces as a flag came out. It was kind of like, okay, and it was just very exciting. And, when you think about these youth and what's ahead of them and what they'll see, you're so excited for them. And Wade, knowing that you're behind the coordination of all of that and making that happen, we're just overwhelmed and thrilled that you are here with us tonight to share some of that. What I'm really interested in is for us to open our hearts and minds to what we as individuals can do for Rotary Youth Exchange, as well as what we might as a club be able to do. And I am sure through Wade's guidance tonight, we can learn that. So thank you, Wade, for being with us. And the floor is certainly yours.
Well, thank you very much. It's I love talking about Youth Exchange. It's a little bit of a challenge tonight because so many of you were at the conference last Saturday, and heard that presentation. But I went back and changed a little bit and picked up some that maybe will be more relevant for a club. And of course, I know this is a challenge for an E-Club because the big question is, well, how can you get involved in Youth Exchange? Because as the chair, we certainly would appreciate any help that we can figure out that y'all might be. So I'm gonna put my presentation up. Let's see here. It looks very much like what you saw on Saturday. And I'll start in sort of the same way. To me, this is a face looking toward the future. It's an avatar, it's blue, and it's the future of the world. And as I look at it, I really appreciate the determination. Very realistic, but it's a determined look. Like, I can do this. I can face the world.
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's make sure you're sharing your screen.
Okay, am I not?
I don't see it. Does anybody else? Okay, all right, not yet.
I'm sorry. Let's see.
That's okay. That's okay. Sometimes it can be a little bit finicky. There it is.
I got to help her.
Yay. Thank you, Travis.
You're welcome.
Hello, Travis.
There.
Much better?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. Well, there you have it. The face of the future, very determined, ready to take on the world. And as I was saying, that's what we look for in Rotary Youth Exchange, is that it is a challenge. it's challenged on a lot of levels. Pull a thread here and you'll find it's attached to the rest of the world. Whatever the issue is, whatever the topic, from manufacturing, supply chain, the economy, banking, investments, disease, climate, everything today is connected. We know, for example, that we make BMWs in Spartanburg County, but the parts that go into those BMWs come from Mexico, Brazil, Slovakia, lots of Germany, of course, and those cars are sent all over the world. So it is clearly a world of interconnectedness on every level. And here we have the Rotary District 7750 kids, some of them who are here, and they are having fun. But they are also the future of the world. And I like to emphasize to any Rotary Club, this is the future of Rotary. And the sooner we learn to embrace them, the more assured we are of a happy future. So what is a Rotary Youth Exchange shooting? Are the pictures in the way here on the side? Can you see that?
We're good. We're good.
Good. Okay. Rotary Youth Exchange students are between 15 and 18 and a half years old at the time they leave the country. They're selected and trained, oriented by Rotarians in their home country. In the US, we have State Department criteria that we have to meet to as part of our training and processing. They have to have at least minimal English language ability. They come with full insurance coverage. They agree to abide by Rotary and the district rules, and they are above average academically. And that's true of any Rotary Exchange student all over the world. They pretty much meet these standards, except perhaps the English language. Not everybody has to speak English, depends on where they're going, of course. Host families. A host family is really any family unit of any sort that's willing to provide a stable, loving environment for the student. That is the most important qualification, the stable, loving environment. They're willing to open their hearts and their home to have a student there, to the student there. They may or may not have children in the home. They may never have had children in the home. They may be single parents. They may be have never been married. There is no requirement of education or income. They have to be legally adults, but there's no maximum age. And they may or may not be Rotarians. And I want to assure you that every single category you can imagine, we have had host our exchange students and do it successfully. So there is no one size fits all as far as being a host family. We do background checks and reference checks on all of our families in the US. These are our current inbound students, 3 of them. Mina on your left is from Turkey. She went home early, but we have Eugenie from France, Dan from Romania, and Luca from Italy. And the 3 of them, minus Mina, were at the conference. I hope y'all got to talk to them. I know your presentation if you were there. Now we move to the Americans. This is Ansley Mobley. She is currently living in Sardinia in Italy, and she's sponsored by the Pleasantburg Club. She went knowing a very, very tiny amount of Italian. And she said when she got there, she knew none. She thought she knew a little until she heard real Italians speak Italian, and then she realized she really didn't know any at all. She's done very well. She's been really happy, and I'm quite proud of her. She did this on her own. She made the decision. She did the application. She really worked hard. She earned money to go, and she's really a great representative. And as I read what she sent me recently, she's going to be a fine Interact leader at Wade Hampton High School next year. And I'm excited about her, really enthusiastic. She has found the pizza is exceptional. Claren Johnston is going to Argentina next year. She's sponsored by the Abbeville Club, and she was a RYE student. Annabelle is going to France. She's sponsored by Greenville Breakfast, and she is an Interact student. Beautiful Green is going to Thailand. She lives in Landrum, and she's sponsored by the Carolina Foothills Club. And she doesn't mind. It's not a secret, but this is a first. She is a foster child. She's in foster care, but she's been living with the family that she lives with now in Landrum for several years. And her foster mother was a Rotary Youth Exchange student to Argentina from the lower district, 7770. And she spoke so fondly of it that Beautiful decided she wanted to do it as well. Now, why she wanted to go to Asia and have to face the challenge of an Asian language, you'll have to ask her that. I think she's found it's a lot more difficult than she ever imagined. And finally, Adelaide Brown is from Greenville. She's sponsored by Pleasantburg, and she'll be going to France. And her father was also a Rotary Youth Exchange student. He was from Lawrence and spent a year in Belgium. So all it takes is one person exposed and the program sells itself. This is an interesting map. First of all, the numbers right now are about 8,000 students a year that Rotary has involved in the program. It was approaching 10,000 prior to COVID. But right now we're at about 8,000 students per year. It's the largest high school exchange student program in the world. And the US State Department says that 60% of all high school exchanges to the US are Rotary Youth Exchange students. Those countries that are highlighted are countries that our district, at least in my memory, has had exchanges with. And I point out, we get to cover a lot of territory when we have had two boys from Russia over the years. They were fairly recent. You may remember them. They come from Sakhalin Island, which is on the far east coast of Russia, closer to Korea than to Moscow. But they were ethnic Russians, and we took the first one in because, long story, we heard at the international conference in Atlanta that he needed a host family. Something went wrong, and they made the announcement, and I said, okay, we'll take it. We'll figure out what to do with him, but we'll take him. And he had such a good time that his mother told her friend, and the friend's son came the next year. So that's our two students from Russia. But it's a lot of countries we've covered over the years. And when I look at Kyrgyzstan in the Middle East and Zimbabwe in Africa, that's when I feel like I'm doing my job, because those are countries we need good relations with, and they're not on everybody's list for youth exchange. This, I think, is really summarizes in a great way. If you look at it, it's research that shows parents' desires for their children, parents' worries for their children, skills that universities value, skills that employers value, and concerns of teenagers. And it's really interesting. And yet when you put it all on a chart and you compare it with the benefits and the protections of Rotary Youth Exchange, Rotary Youth Exchange satisfies every point there. There are 25 of them, and anybody who's worked any time at all with the program can see how these skills are developed and how the concerns are addressed. And it's just a really powerful tool. One of our students going out next year is going short term. She really wanted to go long term. And she took this to her parents and tried to convince them. Now, they were not convinced, but there's a lot more of that story. But it even made an impression on her. And I think it's a really nice tool for people to look at and see what the program's all about. Because so many times they just think, oh, it's fun, it's travel. So why is Youth Exchange good for your club? You promote international peace, goodwill, and understanding. That's an obvious benefit. You make your local high school students global citizens. Now, this one to me is the best reason why we here in 7750 should be doing more youth exchange, because the level of, I always hesitate to say the word, but it's true, the level of ignorance of foreign countries and life abroad in our high schools is shocking. And you may recall Luca during the conference, those of you who were there, making the comment of a friend who asked him if he drove all the way from Italy. I've met students who say, oh no, you can't do that, Italy's in Europe. Well, where's Europe? You just have to get our foreign students together and have them entertain you for a while with the questions they've been asked. Do you go to school? Do you have electricity? Are there cars? You fill in the country. Are there cars in Japan? Do you have electricity in Germany? Do you have to go to school? Do you have toilets? I mean, it's just unbelievable. We need to have more foreign students in our schools to expose our students to them. And the second reason, of course, advantage is, of course, we send students abroad so we can take Americans and send them basically wherever they want to go. You enlarge your pool of prospective club members and future Rotarians. You know, every youth exchange student is supposed to have at least 2 and preferably 3 families. We end up almost all of ours have only 2 host families while they're here. But all those host families have friends and neighbors. The reach of having 1 student here is really bigger than most people ever imagine, because 2 host families is usually 4 people, 2 fathers and 2 mothers, and they've all got friends, they've all got relatives, everybody learns about the program. Those are all potential club members. And if you can't think of any other reason to participate in Rotary Youth Exchange, well, it's great for building your membership. If you use it right, you got to ask people. And it's amazing when you go out and recruit students to go abroad, how grateful their parents are. And those are also prospective Rotarians. We have our incoming president in our club next year is a member of Rotary solely from hosting youth exchange students. And I just caught her caught her and her husband years ago at a neighborhood cocktail party. It's a good time and place to ask. And they said yes, and they had 4 students after that. So I think they've hosted 5 students and really enjoy it. So you strengthen the reputation and impact of your club on your community by demonstrating the best values of Rotary. We're about peace, we're about international relations, we're about community service, and what better way to exemplify that than bringing this foreign kid into your home or sending your own child abroad. And it's an opportunity that just enriches and adds a global perspective to everybody. It's just a great representation of what Rotary is. So every club needs somebody passionate about youth and about youth exchange. If I have one person in a club, you'll have a program, because as you all know, that one person who's passionate about a program will make that program happen in the club. We have information sessions. We're happy to explain the ins and outs of the program to anybody. And we certainly want to recruit more potential exchange students. In thinking what your club as an E-Club might do, it seems that one thing might be helping to recruit potential exchange students, getting the word out to schools. Schools are hard to get into, churches. We've got a fellow over in Easley. He hasn't had any success yet, but he's a youth leader at his church, really enthusiastic about Rotary Youth Exchange. And he does programs there and has talked to them. So there are a lot of ways that community recreation groups, soccer leagues, things like that, just talking about it, anybody interested. And we're happy. I'll talk to anybody anytime, as you all know. Finally, of course, you can host a foreign student. I'm not sure how that would work for y'all, but any one of you who knows anybody who might want to host, it can still be your club project. You have to have a counselor, so that there should be somebody in the area where the student lives who can serve as the counselor for the student. But that and having a counselor and paying the allowance. The allowance we give them is $125 a month. So for 10 months. So having a counselor and coming up with the allowance of $12.50 a year is really all it takes to host. Now, obviously, I know you've got some members who don't live. Sue Poss comes to mind, who don't even live in our district. I don't think that's a good arrangement, because I don't think the District 7770 would appreciate that kind of invasion. I'm not sure Rotary really allows that to go on. But anyway, it's just a thought that I had that y'all might be able to help recruit students. Years ago, there was an E-Club, one of the very first ones in Colorado, that sponsored a student to Italy. And I remember it because when I had to do makeups, that's that many years ago, I used to often go on, and he did a program once a month with his blog, telling about his time in Italy at their meetings. And so I used to listen to those and do my makeups that way. So you add young people to your club. That's our Russian boy serving blinis at a Russian dinner, and our Brazilian student serving Brazilian dessert that she made. One of our Spanish boys doing cash pickup. One of the best meetings our club ever had. It was COVID period, but we had 4 former exchange students from the 90s, and who had all been hosted by our club. And it was really, really fascinating. Plus, we had our girl from Zimbabwe, who was here at the time, in on the Zoom call. So
it was excellent. It was excellent, Wade. I was at that meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was amazing. Just amazing to hear these kids talk. They're not kids anymore. They all have children, they're married, but very successful. It was really a good meeting. It's a great club project. On the left, they're doing, they were supposed to be doing food packing, and I think they did do that at Carol Burdett's conference in Clemson. And there on the right, you have a Spanish and Russian boy. I was a counselor for Alex, who lives in Hamburg. When we went to Hamburg to the International Convention, I was able to spend time with him. And on the right, I was a counselor, and actually Richard from Slovakia lived with us. And there he is with his child, and I visited him in Slovakia. On the left, it's a girl from Brazil who was in Simpsonville, and her host sister is attending her wedding. And on the right, the same girl was also host sister to the boy from Kyrgyzstan. And that's Rebecca Holmes, who was 2 years ago president of Simpsonville, dentist in Simpsonville, but she's in Kyrgyzstan with her husband visiting Ulan. On the left, you've got a student from Belgium, a student from Spain, and a student from Greenville, who all know each other through Youth Exchange, and they met up. On the right, some of the same group in Germany visiting another a German exchange student. Jack and Mary Newby, Jack was my predecessor as chair there in Taiwan. And there's the Russian boy giving me, guess what? A bottle of vodka as a gift for having him in our district. French boys making crepes in the kitchen. Girl eating fondue in Switzerland with her Swiss host family. Earn unending gratitude. Wyatt Davis was in Spain, and these are his two host families, and his mother wrote, I will forever be grateful for these families who introduced Wyatt to the Spanish culture and showed him love. Can't get much better gratitude. American life, Clemson football, playing golf, eating your first hamburger in the US, nerd day at Greenville High School, shelling peas on the front porch, and shucking corn. The things these kids don't know how to do, you have to teach them. It's just amazing. The girl on the left is from Germany. She played in the state tennis championship finals. She didn't win, but she came in second that year. And the girl on the right from Italy in the school play. Going to the prom, of course, and on the right, French boy doing his promposal. Miss West Oak High School was from Norway that year, and Clébon is from France, and he played American football at Emerald High School. Here we have a girl from Greenville who's in Belgium, and another girl from Greenville in her German barmaid outfit. Girl from Spartanburg touring Italy, and the girl from Walhalla in Chinese formal wear in Taiwan. Expand Americans' knowledge. Those are both the Russian boys, one at his club meeting and the other one at an Interact club meeting, talking about their countries. Welcome to Taiwan, welcome to Belgium, welcome some great Rotarians, father and mother of a French boy that stayed here. And the Russian mothers in Hamburg had a great party on a old Russian sailing ship, Navy ship, and they took us with them. So there you have it. Embrace the future of Rotary and promote world peace. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Wade. Any questions for Wade?
Wade, well, first I have to say that when I was in high school, someone hosted an exchange student from Sweden, and it was years later that I learned that it was a Rotary exchange student. But I will say that he was on the cross country team with us, and we took him camping a lot, and we just had the best time. I was in Alaska at the time, but this kid from Sweden, I mean, the things he'd never experienced, but then the things that he shared with us, because obviously, you know, Sweden is just a very different culture too. But then years later, just to being in contact with him, I realized he was a Rotary exchange student. So kind of full circle. But my question for you, I have two. One is, at RYE, do they talk much about the opportunity to be an exchange student? And then the other is, do our people from the US get a pretty good priority in where they go?
I went to RYE for the first time this past summer and had a really good reception there. In the past, nobody's really gone down there.
Okay.
And there was always a feeling that we weren't wanted, we didn't fit in the program, but that was not true this year when I asked, and we went and we did the program and had some really good interest in this. As I got one student out of it, and I was down at the Interact Club a few weeks ago at Mead Hall in Aiken, and the student there invited me because she had heard me at RYE. So that's been really good. Our students in our district pretty much can go wherever they choose because there's so much more demand. We're a small district, we operate independently. We have a lot of flexibility, and that anytime I say, I've got a student, you want to do an exchange, it's pretty much a yes. And so I've never had a problem placing anybody. Now, I personally try to get different countries. I don't want everybody to be from Spain, from France. I don't want everybody to be from Germany. I like to try to mix people up, and really would like to do more with places that are sort of underserved. Taiwan, Thailand, certainly places like Zimbabwe. I mean, back in the day, I wanted to be an exchange student, and I applied. It wasn't Rotary, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" "I'll go anywhere. I'll go anywhere. I'll go anywhere." I went to Iran. So I admire that, that kind of flexibility and curiosity.
And we have to send somebody to the place, like if we have a student that says, I want to go there, we take a student from the place that we send a student. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's just about impossible for us to, now if I had a situation, I might be able to say, can you send yours next year? But anytime we exchange with another country, we pretty much have to take their student. Now, we take in more here than we send. And as long as I can get clubs to host, I'll keep taking students. Next year we'll have, I was hoping for 4, but I think it's only going to be 3. And we have a short-term girl who's going to be here for 3 months in the fall. So we'll have 4 at the beginning. I may yet get one from Brazil, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. So we take in more than we send.
Any other questions for Wade?
I have a question or two. Wade, you said that you were wondering about people going to unusual countries.
Yes.
It's because they read a book called The Road Less Traveled. My real comment has to do with the fact that Shirley and I have had a lot of, not direct experience, but indirect experience with a lot of Rotary exchange students over the years. And every relationship that we've ever had in helping them, go places, do things with them, and in the club interaction is always impressed us. So the general question is, what would it take to double the number of exchange students?
Inbounds or out?
Just overall. In other words, I feel like
Overall,
if the experience that every student that we've ever met, just raves about the experience, that and thinking about the future of Rotary, I would think that we would want to grow the exchange program as much as possible. And I'm sure you're doing that, but I'm doing some vision thinking here to say, what's the weak link?
I think it's club participation. That's both in hosting and in finding American students who want to go abroad. And it may be that they're reluctant to find Americans to go abroad because then they know I'm going to say, well, we have to host somebody too. Are you willing to host? I just went through that with a club, and they finally agreed to host. And I promised I'd hold their hand all the way. But the number of times I hear from clubs, we'd really like to do it. We've done it before. We know it's a great thing. We have members who have hosted, and most of those members, they don't say this, but I've met them over, and they aren't really comfortable hosting teenagers. Although you could make that argument about me, and I just had one here throughout the fall, so it's okay. But they said they can't find host families, and I respect that. I know it's difficult. I'm not making fun of them, but I also know it's like finding club members. You have to ask, and you have to ask more than once. And it's there's a lot going on in the world, and I think things are particularly busy in this part of the country. That sounds weird to me, but Rotary Youth Exchange seems to work really much better in upstate New York, in Wisconsin and Minnesota, where things aren't happening as fast, and it's just a different, and also this is a much more internationally oriented area. I've thought of that too. But the bottom line, to answer your question, is more clubs willing to go out and find students to go abroad, and someone in the club who will work with us to develop the program in that club. That's what we need more than anything.
Wade, when we look,
Thanks.
wait, go ahead, Ken, I'm sorry.
No, just thank you for that.
Oh, let me go to Candace. Candace, you've got your hand up.
Okay, thank you. So Wade, you mentioned about maybe an opportunity for us is looking for students to recruit. You presented that virtually all the students were hosted by one specific club, but it seems like there's also an opportunity for us to partner with another nearby club, either in supporting the student, or maybe even having them live with one of our members for 2 or 3 months as a part of the rotation. So have you had any clubs partner with each other to help take care of the kids?
Absolutely. This year, Luca is hosted by Clemson and Clemson Sunrise. The first Russian boy we had we took him late. My club found the host families, and 2 other clubs paid his allowance. Greenville City Center, I believe, was one, and Reedy River paid his allowance. So yes, I mentioned that whenever I have the chance. We had a really unusual one a few years ago. Spartanburg said they couldn't find a host family, but they were willing to pay the allowance. So I had a host family in Clemson. So the boy went to Clemson, and occasionally they take him to Spartanburg to the club meetings over there, but Spartanburg paid his allowance. So yes, absolutely is the answer to your question.
Lance.
I should mention that one of the, if any of you go out and start talking to high school students, it's really fascinating to hear some of the questions. Is it safe? Was the first question I got at RYE. Is it safe to leave the country? I perhaps shouldn't, I don't know. I said, well, there's no other country in the world that has school shootings. So I think it's a really interesting question. But yes, it's absolutely safe. I mean, it's at least as safe as living in the US. We're not going to send you to Ukraine or North Korea. But, and then there is this idea that from parents that the children cannot get off their track. They've got to graduate from high school, they've got to go to college, and they don't want any deviation from that. And yet this is, as you all probably know, better than any college experience they're ever going to have. And then the other one I get is, well, they can study abroad in college, but that's really not the same. They go with American students, they study in English with American students. It's not this kind of experience of total immersion. So, but it's really interesting to hear the reasons why kids and their parents give for why they like to do it, but they just can't imagine it.
Well, first, Wade, thanks so much for a great presentation. You've done so much for this program, and it's really appreciated. My 2 questions are, first, are there a lot more of the foreign students that want to come to the United States that cannot come because we are not sending students to reciprocate? And 2, is the cost, if we wanted to sponsor, is it $12.50 is the amount, or is it more than that?
Okay, the first question, there are a lot more who want to come here than we have hosts for. We don't have to send anybody to take one. And frequently, as I say, take in more than we actually send. But there are still more who would like to come. That's why I have really good placement rate, because there's always somebody who's willing to come to the US. They don't really expect to come to 7750, but you know, they expect to go to California or New York City. But those things don't happen. That's not real. And they're happy once they get here. We have a really good program here. We do a lot for the kids, and it's small, and it's very hands-on. The cost to host a foreign student is, the allowance is $125 a month for 10 months. Now, maybe the club will buy a Christmas present. Maybe the club will throw in a little extra money here and there, but the official cost is $1,250 for the time that the student is here. To sponsor a student to go abroad, there is no cost. We ask the clubs if they want to pay the $400 application fee. And some clubs will, and some clubs say, well, the student needs it, so we will. Others say, I don't think the student needs it, we're not going to do it. So we have 2 this year that are paying the $400 application fee, 2 out of the 4 that are going. But that's the cost. That's all it is to sponsor an American to go abroad. The most it can cost you is $400, because that's if you voluntarily pay the application fee for the student. And $1,250 is the cost to bring somebody in.
Thank you.
Wade, I can tell you have helped us percolate some ideas within this club. I think Frank Cox has volunteered. He was not able to join tonight, but he said he would come on another time, because I think he may be, maybe a little bit does not fit. He and Crossy don't fit the stereotype for who usually hosts a student. And I think they had an overwhelmingly wonderful experience. And I think we could really gain from that. So you may not have heard the last from this club, I'm hoping. And
I hope not.
yes. And so I think you have whetted the appetite as well as fostered the spirit of what we would like to do. So we certainly appreciate your time and all of your effort that you put forth and sharing it with us tonight. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it. So
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
And if you'll stick around, go ahead.
If y'all have any ideas for either that I can help y'all with, or suggestions for me, please pass them on. I just want to grow the program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will do that. And I know this will be a continual conversation, and I look forward to that. Right now, what I'd like to do is share with everybody. We always kind of end our meetings, and Wade, what we do for our speakers, since we can't reach out to you and hand you a coffee mug or something of that nature, what we can do is include a book in one of our little free libraries. And this one will go in recognition and honor of Wade Cleveland for his passion for and support of the Rotary Youth Exchange. This book called Wherever You Go, it's from an award-winning author, Pat Zillow Miller, and the illustrator Eliza Wheeler, just well-known young children's authors and illustrators. But one of the first phrases in this book, it's kind of a rhyme that goes through it. It says, roads give you a chance to seek and explore. What an adventure, just open your door. And that's what you have done for all of these students. And so thank you so much. And we'll, with pride, we will include this in one of the little free libraries in your honor. So
Thank you. I love that. I love that. Well, that's a great honor. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.